Welcome to the We Hack Purple podcast, where each week we interview a different member of the information security industry to learn about their super cool jobs. We started this because basically I'm just ridiculously curious. I'm Tanya Janca, I'm your host, and I just love learning about all the different types of work that people do within our industry, and especially like, how does it work? What is it like? How did you get that job? What's the best part? And so I invite really awesome humans on that I admire. And this week, the person I invited on is none other than Allie Mellen. Sorry, I'm saying your name wrong already. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really like you, so I'm very excited.
I really like you, so I'm very excited too.
I'm super awkward. I forgot to mention I'm an awkward host. So please introduce yourself and tell us your job title and like a little bit about what the heck that job means.
Yeah, so my name's Allie Mellen. I've been in tech for a decade. I am a computer engineer by training, and I've spent the past 10 years in various tech roles. I started out doing a lot of mobile app development, specifically for iOS applications, and moved into my own consultancy, really consulting on mobile app development and engineering more generally, before finally getting back into the security space. I started in the security space actually with some Internet of Things security research, which culminated in a talk at Black Hat, which was just such an incredible introduction to the community. Everyone was just like so incredibly nice, and I couldn't get it out of my head, so I had to stay in security. And so yeah, I spent 2 years as a security strategist at a endpoint detection and response company, and that's the role that we're going to be talking about today. So
Nice.
yeah.
Okay, so please explain what that job is and what that means. Because the average person is like, that sounds cool. I don't understand.
Yeah, I like it because it's like a fancy title. It's
It
like
is.
strategist. Anything strategist sounds cool. But really what it is, I spent a mix of time, and that's one of the things that I really like about it, is I was able to spend half of my time on the actual security team within the organization, doing both product security and infrastructure security.
Ooh, I just lost you for a second. Could you repeat that last little bit? I just lost you for a second.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry about that. I don't know. My connection's usually okay, but with the snow that we're getting here and everything, you never know.
I hear you.
So, yeah. So what's really interesting about the security strategist role is that it's really two different beasts. On the one hand, you work on the security team at the organization. So I spent a lot of time doing product security and infrastructure security, really working cross-functionally across the organization and doing a lot of the communication and just making sure that everything was running smoothly, and wearing a lot of hats because it was a small team, and oftentimes security teams are quite small. But the other half of my time was really my favorite part, which is basically advocacy and evangelism. So really talking about the security space, really promoting security and the importance of security, and trying to communicate it in a way that makes sense to other people that maybe aren't as technical. Because I think that from what I've seen, and actually something that I really admire about you, is that it can be very challenging to communicate security in a way that makes sense to other people. So what I think is really cool is that people like you and me are able to do that, and have the opportunity to do that, because it's really important, and especially in such a technical field, it can be quite challenging.
Yes, I agree. I also just realized I forgot to thank our sponsor, ThreadFix, and I want to just thank them right now because they're awesome and they're ridiculously supportive of We Hack Purple. So thank you so much. But I'm going to continue now because obviously I have more questions for you. What is a day like in the life doing that work? Like, is it lots of meetings? Is it hacking all the things? Is it like having to jump through hoops in front of customers? Like, what is it like?
Yeah, it's a big mix. One of the things that I really like about the role is that it gave me the opportunity to do a lot of different things and not just be like, it just so many different opportunities throughout the day. So at the peak of that role, I was doing 2 to 4 presentations a week, whether they were conference talks or webinars or whatever, panel talks, just really trying to get the message out there and trying to communicate to as many people as possible. And luckily, but not so luckily, the pandemic really made that possible, because all of a sudden I was able to just like communicate over video instead of having to fly somewhere or like spend a whole day in a different city or in a different country. So that really enabled me to do a lot more presentations than I had been able to before. And then on the other side, on the security side, it was really day to day. The security team that we had was very small. So there would be days where I would be coordinating with the product team, trying to build that relationship so that our product security engineer would be able to actually get things fixed that he needs to get fixed. There were other days where I was actually evaluating companies that we were considering working with and evaluating their security and doing third-party risk assessments. So that was like very cool, because you really get a good overview of really the work that a company has to go through in order to work with other companies from the security perspective. And it's also very nitpicky, which I tend to be very good at. So like, I love reading NDAs because I like to find all the mistakes. That was like a really good fit for me for a little while. And then on the corporate security side, on the really infrastructure security, it was a lot of trying to communicate and build communication channels in a strong way with the employees in the company. I was really proud to be a part of a team that was very much so led with this idea that security serves the business, especially in an enterprise setting. And so things like communicating effectively with the employees and making sure that they understood the security fundamentals were really important and really valued, which was cool. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, occasionally I would also jump on customer calls, learn more about their experiences, talk to them about our approach to security, and those were always really interesting because it's great to hear about their pain points and where we're able to help them and be able to give them advice and also take advice from them.
It kind of sounds like you had to do 5 different jobs. Did you get 5 paychecks? Is that how that works? No?
You know the answer to that?
I do know the answer to that. Just like it sounds like a lot.
It was a lot. It was also, I was definitely at a point where I wanted to like do all the things and learn as much as I could. So it was simultaneously a lot, and I do not want to go through it again. And also an amazing opportunity to learn. So I'm very happy that I did that.
My feelings are the same, my friend. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired now.
Yeah, right? Oh my God, I've been getting up for like 5:30 a.m. meetings for too long. Like, I need this to stop.
Oh my gosh, I really like sleep, like a lot.
I love sleep.
Right? Sleep's the best. So
yeah, I'd like to do it a lot more.
Like 8, 9-ish hours per night.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? What happened?
Well, now I work for myself, and now I get to do that. It's pretty sweet. I'm like, I don't take meetings before 9 unless I'm getting paid thousands of dollars. I just don't do it.
That's smart. Yeah.
They're like,
set those boundaries.
Yeah, they're like, can we have a meeting for this? I'm like, are you going to pay me $1,000 or more dollars? Then the answer is no. Like, I did one meeting in like the middle of the night last year because I got paid 2,000 American dollars for 20 minutes. I'm like, I'll be there.
For 20 minutes, totally worth it.
Yeah, and 2,000 American dollars is like 5 zillion Canadian rupees, so like it's a lot. Okay, making fun of Canada. So what type of personality traits do you think would make someone like good at this sort of job? Like, if someone was going to have like an aptitude or like a certain type of personality so that they would like the job more and so that they would be better at it, like, do you have any ideas on that?
Yeah. It's a really interesting question because I'm personally an introvert. And as you can imagine, that much interaction with other humans can take its toll.
Yeah.
I think that extroverts would be really sensational at this job because it does give you so much opportunity to connect with other people. At the same time, as an introvert, I can kind of say that I do enjoy it because I think that, first of all, I'm very curious about other people, kind of exactly like what you were saying earlier. It's very exciting to learn new things and to meet new people. So I do enjoy that and kind of like fight through that with my introvert self. But also, really, I think it takes someone who just has a passion for what they're working on and is able to like show that passion to other people. That's really critical.
Yeah, I agree. I just put a note in the chat that if anyone has questions for Allie, you are allowed to ask. And if they're nice, I will ask them. But everyone's always super nice in our chat. Like, everyone's always so encouraging. And we have some
You
viewers.
have to ask the mean questions.
Yeah, I ask the mean questions. Mwahaha. Also, usually at this point, I ask everyone to click the thumbs up button, but everyone watching already has. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate that. So obviously I have way more questions, though. So what type of technical skills would someone need to do a job like that? Because it sounds like you have to have some technical skills to be good at explaining and understanding.
Yeah. So I feel kind of like in a weird spot answering this question, not because of you, but just because I have that technical background and I came in as a computer engineer. So it's easy for me to say, like, you don't have to be technical to do this, and I got a 4-year degree to do that, you know? But I really do think that non-technical people can succeed in this role because I think that actually this is one of the things that I really like to talk about and I'm really a big proponent of is security needs more non-technical people and security needs more perspectives, period. So maybe you're technical in a different space and you can bring that information and that learning to security. But it's so critical for more defenders to actually be able to come in and say, that's not how I would do this. I would do this way, because that's what the attackers are doing every day. So I think it would be really cool for someone who maybe doesn't even have any technical skill to come in and give their perspective on what this role should look like. I also think that this role, while it can have technical components, it's really your playground and you can choose how technical you want it to be. And a lot of it is really just about that communication and being able to foster that communication. And over time, ultimately, I think that you can start to pick up on the things that are technical about the role and kind of like grow into it if you're really passionate about it.
Would you say, so like I'm constantly preaching that you can't be really good at application security unless you have basic level, like decent social skills and decent communication skills. And it sounds like you need better than decent for a role like yours. Would you say that's true, or?
Yeah, I personally, I definitely did not hit my stride in this role until I really started being introspective about my behavior with other people, just generally, not with like, oh, I'm wrong for this or whatever, but just being able to iterate and improve on the way that I'm talking to people, being able to pick up on social cues, being able to understand where they're coming from and listen to them, especially not just like talk about whatever I want. So I 100% think so. I also think that, and this is something that I really want to do some research on, but we'll see, security maturity being measured by EQ of the people of the team, the security team. I think that there is probably a lot of correlation there that maybe is undiscovered, but So I think that really, hopefully for any role in security, people are trying to become more like socially capable and more able to hold these conversations. But it also shouldn't hold you back. Like I definitely started and I was like, I'm just going to do whatever, and kind of grew into it. And I think that that's one of my like life lessons is I just really have no fear just jumping into things. And I'll tell people like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm here, you know? And it's, you learn a lot that way. And
I
you
love
also
that attitude.
ego down, which is always good.
So someone in the audience just asked a question that I was going to ask, and could you explain what EQ is? Because I know and I know you know, but we don't know that everyone listening knows.
Yeah, so it's basically, to boil it down, it's all about your emotional capability and how emotionally grown you are and like how effectively you're able to communicate with other individuals. So it's just an indicator of your emotional state and your emotional growth and really your social skills as part of that. So the premise that I am trying to make behind security maturity, really linking to EQ, is that I think that in order to do security well, you need to understand that it's a business function. It's not just about like finding all the cool things and protecting against all the cool things. And as such, you need to be able to aid the employee experience and make it better. And you definitely cannot do that without positive social skills and like real maturity as an individual.
I want to just applaud loudly. So I'm going to do some jazz hands for how much I agree with you. So when I was a developer advocate, there was a small percentage of the other developer advocates where they wouldn't listen to what the other person was saying and they would just say the thing, like the speech or whatever, the thing they were planning to say. Like I had dinner with a bunch of my teammates and one of them said, we should do a live CTF and like live stream ourselves doing it. And I'm like, actually, like, I'm sure I'm not supposed to say this, but I really don't enjoy CTFs. Like pen testing is different than CTFs, and I find like a lot of the challenges in CTFs are super, like they're trying to trick you on purpose, and like I go in with this work mindset of I'm going to secure the app, and so I look for those things, and I don't enjoy a puzzle that's intentionally meaning to trick me. And I'm like, also, there's a lot of pressure on me because I'm like a public figure in this space. So if I don't do well, it will look bad. And he's like, you just have imposter syndrome. And then he gave me a lecture for 30 minutes about how I'm like, I don't have imposter syndrome. I'm awesome. I'm like, I'm not good at this specific type of thing. Like, dude, I was a professional pen tester. And now I can say I literally wrote the book on AppSec. I'm a very confident person, but I'm also confident in the things I don't know or that I'm not great at. And also, like, I don't love doing CTFs. And there's nothing wrong with me. And he just kept going on. And I was just like, so I constantly was like, can I join your team? And I would just be like, if you hire him, I fucking quit. I can't work with this person. Like, I can't even tolerate him at a dinner. And and there were other ones where they only talk about themselves. They're not listening to the customer. They're not listening. Like when someone comes up to me after I give a presentation, I want to hear what they want to say. I already just spoke an hour. Dude, I've done enough talking. I have 2 ears for a reason. It's my turn to listen to them. And so I love that you actually said it out loud. Thank you, Allie. Thank you.
Yeah. No, and you know what? I'm so sorry to hear that guy was like that to you, because that's the type of thing that like does not help someone's imposter syndrome if they have it. Like having someone just tell them like that, like it's
and that you're overreacting and that you're not allowed saying no. And it's like, oh, actually, you can go to hell. Don't know if you knew that.
Like, why did someone think that was helpful?
I know.
It's just the worst.
Well, and I feel like just like that person who's not going to excel in the role, because the whole idea of developer advocacy is to actually hear what the customers need and want and really desire. Because sometimes they'll say, I want this feature, but it's like, okay, so what do you actually need? And let me know. Yeah. And then there might be an even better thing we can do for you. than like, I want a button that does this. It's like, maybe I can like magic up a whole bunch for you. I don't know until you tell me what you truly need, right? And it sounds like you've got that, and I like it.
I mean, also what's really cool about listening is it does give you that opportunity to learn. So if you're not confident about something, then just ask questions. Ask like a million questions. The more questions you ask, this is what I've found, which is so counterintuitive, but the more questions I ask, the more like confident I come off, and the more like I know the subject material I come off, you know, because, and they're always like, oh, that's such a great question. And I'm like, oh, thank God, because I thought this was so dumb, you know? But if you ask the questions, it really is, it's just a positive experience. So I definitely recommend listening, and I'm glad you do too.
Oh, would you, so if someone wanted to try to get into a role like that, is there like training that they could take, or is there like specific work experience they can try to try to build up to a role like that, besides using both your ears to listen?
Yeah, I think that it really depends on where you're coming from. If you already have a technical background, it will probably be easier than if you don't. But at the same time, I think that a great place to start if you don't have a technical background but you're interested in a role like this is just joining a marketing team. Any role on a marketing team, and you're going to learn about the product for security vendors specifically. I mean, if you join a security vendor on the marketing team, then you're going to learn about the product.
Oh, yeah.
You are going to learn about the messaging. You're going to learn about the industry, and it's really what you put into it. So if you're trying to get into a role like this, that can be a great place to start. Another great place to start is the opposite end of the spectrum, where you join a security team as an analyst and just kind of work your way up on all of the like really miserable stuff, because being an analyst is the worst job in the world. But ultimately, like, you are going to learn a lot that way, and like get really in the weeds and really understand what you're talking about. The other thing is, regardless of where you start, public speaking training is critical for this role, because you do spend so much time talking to customers and talking on podcasts and various webinars, and having any public speaking will help you in these talks, but also in day-to-day life and just navigating day-to-day life. This is kind of like, I don't know, I think it's becoming less taboo, but I highly recommend therapy, just because you learn a lot about yourself, and you also learn and kind of like can hear how other people communicate, and really learn like, okay, I said this in this situation, but maybe this wasn't productive, or maybe I should have like really given myself a different frame of thought on this issue. So that's the one that's probably helped me the most, but I know that that's not, some people don't think that that's an option for them. So public speaking training, at least, I recommend.
I totally think all of us working on ourselves is a smart thing. And
yeah,
there are a lot of good books on like how to communicate better, how to kind of like discover stuff about yourself. And I have to say that personally, a weakness of mine has been understanding why other people make the decisions they do. And I read this book called Give and Take by Adam, I want to say Adam Smith, but I think I'm wrong, because that's such a common name. I'm like, can it really be that? But it was about how some of us are givers, some of us are takers, and then almost all of us are matchers. And so, for instance, like I asked for help with something on my Twitter feed. So I was at DEF CON, and I'd given my badge to someone so that they could go in instead of me, because I had to catch a plane and I was leaving. So I was like, I might as well let someone go have a fun afternoon at this conference. And I paid for the space, right? So why not let them? And but then I realized that my friend Rick was like, there's like a t-shirt for me at the OWASP table that I really want. And I was like, I literally can't go back in. So I tweeted like, would someone be willing to get it and give it to me? And all these people volunteered. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. And I was like, I didn't understand why someone would want to, leave the talk they're in and then go pick up a t-shirt and then walk like 200 meters with it and hand it to me outside the gate. And so some wonderful human did that. And then I was like, can I give you a hug? And he's like, oh my God, yeah. I gave him a big hug because I was like, this is so sweet. Thank you. And then I gave him a high five because I really like high fives. And then he went back in. But then when I read the book, it explained. So like, if, you know, so you and I, for instance, we share a lot of knowledge. We met at a conference where you gave a kick-ass talk. And so then I liked it. And
you
so,
did too.
So then, like, sometimes people who are matchers are like, I would like to do, you know, let's say that your talk taught them something like really important that helped them at work. They're like, I'd really like to do something nice for Allie. And then if you were at a conference and you ask this simple request, it's like, I got this, right? Because it gives them a feeling of satisfaction and makes them feel good. And I'm like, that's awesome. And I was always like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't ask for help from anyone because like they probably won't like it. But it's like, no, actually it turns out if you've already done a nice thing for this person, it makes them feel good. And so now I don't like feel guilty if I ask for help. I'm like, if someone has offered, it's okay. And I didn't understand that before. And so like, I'm a giver. I'll just like endlessly say yes. My team at work say no for me because I'll just say yes until I'm working 24 hours every day because I'm silly. And so I have like a gate system because I don't understand the word no. And so that's good that I understood I needed that. Does that make sense? So they're like, you can't do 5 or 10 talks that are free per week. So you're allowed one free per week, okay? And then that's it. We're cutting you off because you need to sleep and stuff. I'm like, and I rarely break the rule, like hardly ever. But like, I feel like a lot of people don't. So like, your advice is so good. Like, seriously, public speaking so that you can learn how to communicate well and clearly and like feel confident to stand up and speak your truth. And then also like therapy so you know what your truth is.
Yeah. No, so I love that story. It's just so nice and like heartwarming and like real human connection. So that's really cool. And also it reminds me a really great book to read. Yeah. If you haven't read it, that helped me with a lot of things was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson.
I read that.
You read that? Okay, awesome. Any of the viewers, you would enjoy it. That and the other one, which I loved and so worth it, is Nonviolent Communication, which I think that you may have actually recommended to me.
Yeah. It was at LastCon because I was on stage. Were you on stage with me? And there was a panel and this one man had said a thing that was a bit prejudiced. And I was like, oh, no. And then he made some excuses and I was like, no. Because I'm like, I can't publicly just be like, that's cool, yo. And then he was like, well, I don't know what to do. And I was like, actually, there's this awesome book. And it really has helped me communicate. Me too. So like if someone's really angry at me, I can think like, why is this person really angry at me? Or why would this person do this? And it's like, maybe I need to explain like the repercussions of their action. Like, someone in my company did a thing without asking me and volunteered me to do a lot of work. And I found out about it in my newsletter this week. The public newsletter. Yeah, and I was like, oh, you decided to start a program where I have to do all the work. And so then but rather than like getting like really angry, I was like, so the problem isn't that you had a great idea for an awesome program. The problem is that you explained to all of our subscribers that we're going to do this work when the person who actually will be responsible for answering all of those questions is going to be me. And I currently work 10 zillion hours per week. And do I think this is a good idea? Yeah, it's a great idea, but we have to cut a different thing if we're going to add this. And so you don't, like if you want to announce a thing that you're going to do the work, fill your boots. Like if you, but we all know you're not going to answer the Ask Me Anything AppSec questions. We all know it's going to be Tanya. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. And Tanya's tired. And so I was able to explain it in like a fair way and like not be like, because when I read it, I was just like, I made like
Yeah.
the Hulk face. Um,
If it's unexpected, that's like, oh God,
yeah,
like what have I now been signed up for?
I know,
So much work.
right? And the book, Nonviolent Communication, for those that are listening, like really helps me explain like to get to what my feeling is and why I'm upset, and then explain it clear, because they're like, no, but it's a good idea because of this. I'm like, yeah, it's a great idea. I'm not saying that you're not, like, you're super creative. That's why I hired you. You're brilliant.
Yeah.
The problem is that I made an announcement publicly without asking me first. And they're like, oh, well, it's just
Yeah.
a little extra work. I'm like, no, back up. Right? And then, like, explaining, like, really clearly and fairly. And then it's like, okay, so promise from now on you're not going to make an out. Right? And then it was good. And I was like, have I, like, offended you? Like, are you okay? And they're like, yeah, I'm okay. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to talk to you in a way that makes you feel small or bad. And they're like, it's okay. So, like, I always try to check in because sometimes I can be extremely direct. And I don't want to harm someone's self esteem or think like I'm fuming and really angry. It's just like I'm frustrated and like here's why.
Yeah.
And like, can we find a plan to do this better in the future? And it's like, cool. I mean, if it happened, the same thing happened 5 times in a row, it'd be a different discussion, right?
Your
But like,
problem.
but people make mistakes or errors
Totally.
or they just don't consider a thing and life happens. I'm sorry, I'm talking way too much. I want to hear more about you.
No, no, I think you're making great points. It's all like, it's good. And that's like such a healthy boundary to have and like conversation to have, because mistakes are going to happen, but
Yeah,
it's how you react and recover from them that matters.
but I feel that if all the security people out there could read the book and like take it to heart, because honestly, when the book started, I was just like, I don't need this shit. I know everything.
I know, me too.
But then as it continued, and it continued, by the end, I was like, I love this man and I want to give him a hug.
Yeah.
He's so
I know.
brilliant.
The end was like heart-wrenching, but really good. Just
Yeah.
lovely. Ugh.
And giving yourself the space to step back and think about a thing before we react. Because,
That's life-changing advice. Not even kidding. That's life-changing advice. So like once you hear it, it's like, oh, I can do that. And then you start doing it and it's like, oh my God, like this is really beneficial for me,
have
It's-
you ever,
it's
as a
crazy how you
sorry, have you
No, no,
ever,
it's just-
as a security person, just kind of like lost your cool with someone, like where you're just like, no, before you think, or like you give someone, you're like, oh, well, it's just like, have you done that?
Yeah, it feels bad.
It feels bad.
It feels
right?
really bad. I
And-
don't know how people can continue to do that because the first time it's just like, oh my God, I feel gross.
Yeah, and then I don't know about you, but then like later circling back to that person's desk and being like, so can I apologize? Because I was a jerk earlier. And after thinking
Yeah.
about what an idiot I am for 4 hours, I wanted to tell you what an idiot I am.
No, totally. Because it's also one of those things, I think security is it's surprisingly important to be like kind to other people, because if you don't, what happens if that person gets hit with some malware and they're too afraid to come to you and they don't know what to do? That's just going to make the problem worse.
Yes.
And so you need to like build connections with people, or at least not make enemies.
Would you? Okay, so I have so many questions for you. Okay, first, because I definitely need to thank ThreadFix. I want to tell everyone that ThreadFix makes the most stupendous vulnerability management system this side of the galaxy. I told them I would say whatever they wanted, and I have to say that's the best sentence ever that I get to say for work. It's the best. Galaxy? Yes. It's awesome. I like that I get to say something fun, and also I love working with the people from ThreadFix. Okay, so I have so many questions. So So a thing that we talk about a lot on the podcast, so there are a lot of different types of jobs in our industry and they all pay very different amounts. Would you say that your type of job pays well? So I'm not saying like tell me how much you make. I'm saying does it pay well in general and do you feel like it's good compensation for the effort involved?
In general, yes.
I don't
I
mean
think
your
that there,
specific employer paying you specifically on your team. That's not what I mean. But like if
yeah,
someone's going to go after a job like this, like it's a good paying job.
yes, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
like
definitely.
because we had like startup founders on and I'm like, does it pay well? They're like, no.
Yeah. You start up.
I
The
know,
worst.
right? And I think it's really important. We had a journalist on and she's like, no, the pay is
Yeah.
right? And so I think it's really important that people understand, like, you know, if you do a job like this, you're going to be able to pay all your bills and then go to the grocery store and buy any kind of cheese you want.
You can buy pre-cut mango if you want.
Right? You could buy, well, so Allie and I had dinner once and there was sushi. And so like
So much sushi.
yeah, so I'm not gonna tell you how much our bill was, but I've never had a bill even half that much in my whole life before. And we didn't have to pay because someone else was with us who had an amazing expense account. But like, it's not like I have an expense account and I can buy $700 worth of sushi level, right? It's like I can go and I can totally buy $40 worth of sushi and smash it in my face and be like, haha. But it's not like $700 worth of sushi.
That was crazy. It was delicious.
Oh
But it
my
was
gosh,
crazy.
that was such a good time. That was really good. And like 10,000 piles of rain. Oh my gosh, so much rain. Just like you walk out from it's like you're outside 4 seconds. It's like you looked like you just jumped in a swimming pool.
We were covered. It was like coming down. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So like Florida amounts of rain, but it was in Texas.
I know. I thought that Texas was deserty and stuff, but
Yeah, it gives.
what gives? Okay, so what do you like the best about having that type of job? What's the best part? It's a hard
The best part is
question.
the learning.
Wait,
Yeah,
I'm so
it is
sorry I
hard.
cut you off. Please say it again. I'm so sorry.
No,
I'm
no,
sure.
it's okay. No, it is a hard question, but definitely the best part is the learning. I am a lifelong learner. It's who I am at this point, and it's you learn every day in that role, and you have the freedom to learn really what you want to learn, which is so cool. So yeah, I love it.
And you get
It's awesome
paid to learn.
to do that. Yeah, and that's like crazy to think about. It's
It's
those
so
are the
good.
best jobs to me, the ones where you can just like learn and kind of have the freedom to learn. And yeah,
That's so cool. Okay, so difficult question number 2. What is the worst or least favorite part about your job or that job? Not like
good question.
specific, like Joe's a real jerk. I mean, like
Yeah.
as like a thing.
As a thing, I think it's just the hours. It's very long, especially if you want to like excel in that role. Like you can do it 9 to 5, but it's a hustling job. Like you are hustling, and so it's long hours, and that's exhausting after a while. And it's just, I think it's tough to manage the burnout. So that's the
Yes.
thing that I would be wary of.
I remember one week I flew 70 hours and I gave
Oh my-
2 keynotes and
Oh my God.
I worked like a week in that week. Like it was ridiculous. It
Wow.
was 70 hours of travel. Yeah. And I was just
That's
like,
terrible.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was just beyond exhausting. And also, I don't know how you feel about this, but I felt that I could never complete my work ever. Like I could never complete it. There was always 4 more things. And it's like, oh, well, you know, this customer saw you do this talk here and they'd like really like to meet you. I'm like, I'm going to die.
I can't do this right now.
Yeah. Like this person thinks you're cool. I'm like, you know who else thinks I'm cool? My friends and family who haven't seen me in 9 months. Like I'm like, ah!
Yeah.
like, and then that's when you know it's time to retire from that role and find a different role when you're snarky
Totally.
feeling instead of grateful feeling. Agave snarky.
Yeah. I think that that's the scary part is like the potential for burnout. You kind of always feel like you're on the edge of burnout, and that's very rough. Especially like with travel like that.
Yeah. So I have more questions, obviously. I can't help myself. Um, I'm okay. So I have to do a marketing thing. So
Yeah.
We Hack Purple is giving away free mini courses. We're giving a course away, I believe, starting next week for free called Scaling Your Team. So how to scale your AppSec program and your AppSec team without extra AppSec dollars. And if you want to get the course for free, the mini course for free, you just need to sign up for our newsletter, which is newsletter.wehackpurple.com. So you sign up for that, you'll get an invite, and then you'll also get all sorts of other stuff. But that is the main thing, and it's free, and my marketing team should now be impressed with me. Okay, next. So what makes you feel, I know, I'm so bad. What makes you feel the
It was
most,
good.
what makes you feel the most pride from your work? Like, what is the thing where you're like, oh, I feel so good about doing that?
Okay, this is the easiest question. By far, the best feeling in the world is when someone from, like, for example, the marketing team comes up to you and says, hey, can you explain what ransomware is to me? That is like, it's so cool. It's so cool. And because it's not just like explaining ransomware to someone. It's like they trust you enough that they'll go to you for that. And then they think that you're going to be able to like have a conversation with them where they'll be able to understand and get something from it. Like that's just awesome.
Yes.
And yeah, that's by far the most gratifying feeling I've ever had in this role, you know?
Well, and I feel like they're saying, like, I trust you, and also, like, I really value you as, like, a source of knowledge and, like, as my colleague. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, it's a good feeling.
Okay, so now more extremely difficult questions like we've been going through the whole time. So, what advice could you give someone? So, like, let's say someone's watching this and they're like, Allie rules. For whatever reason, I've like doing like 90s slang this week. I've said rules like 44 times. I don't know what's wrong with me. But anyway, so someone's like, Allie totally rules. I want to be just like Allie. I want to do a job like that. I'm super interested in that. Like, what type of advice could you give them to try to move towards that type of role?
Yeah. So the first advice I'd give them is that job's taken. Being Allie is taken. But you're in luck. But you're in luck because you're a super cool person and you have so much to offer that's unique to you and that's going to add value because it's you. So that's the first advice,
I like that.
which I actually stole from a news anchor who was on Good Morning America. She's the best. I can't remember her name. It'll come to me. But the second piece of advice that I would give is just choose an area of security that you're really passionate about and learn about it. And just learn a lot of things, ask a lot of questions. I highly recommend, like, if you are currently at a security company or even not a security company and you're not in the security team, ask the CISO if you can tag along to some meetings or just spend some time in the SOC. They will not say no unless they're jerks, and then you should go somewhere else. But you can learn a lot just by sitting in the SOC. And I also highly recommend checking out organizations like Trace Labs, which is a really, really cool organization that does a missing persons CTF. So you can use open source intelligence in order to find actual missing persons and help the help police officers actually do that work.
Trace
Labs?
Labs?
It's really cool. Trace Labs, yeah. It's really cool, and it's also free. And what's really awesome about it is you don't need any hacking knowledge to actually get started in that. You can just be like searching on Facebook for these people. It's not something that you need hacking knowledge, but you can really like start to understand more about hacking by doing this. And it's just like, there is such a great feeling to participate in that, especially when they find someone. It's like, oh my gosh, this is like really impactful work. So highly recommend that to like engage your passion.
That's awesome. I saw a thing on Twitter where someone was saying, oh, the FBI is wondering if they could help find, and then it's like the intern Twitter. This is his name. This is where he lives. This is his favorite type of milkshake. His dog's named this. And like, it's just like ridiculous. Like just the internet, boom, 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 boom. We're like, we got you.
People are really good at it. Like, just
Oh, yeah.
normal people can find anyone. It's amazing.
Did you see that thing where there was a person that had been hoarding toilet paper and all of this other stuff? And then a woman who works in open source intelligence gathering, also known as OSINT, she publicly live tweeted her finding him and figuring out exactly which warehouse all of the stuff was in. So he was like charging like $100 for toilet paper and stuff right at the beginning of the pandemic. And she's like, and then here's a picture from the video camera of the police taking the stuff out. She's like, got this. And I was like,
That's awesome.
don't mess with InfoSec Twitter.
Yeah, for real. That's some good life advice in general.
Oh my gosh.
Do not mess with Twitter.
So I want to tell everyone to follow you. So I follow Allie on Twitter. And if you want to follow her, so I'm going to put it up on the screen, but I'm going to spell out her handle to you because you might not say it correctly. So it's HackerXBella. So it's hacker, Hacker, and then X like the letter X. And then Bella, like beautiful in Italian, Bella. And then her website, as you might have guessed, is hackerxbella.xyz. So that's right, it's not .com, it's .xyz because she's gonna mess with us. I just feel like that's like a danger zone type of extension. I was just like, And so I think I hope everyone's learned at least one thing, that they need to follow you. They need to read the book Nonviolent Communication. They need to read the book Give and Take. What was the third book there was another book that you'd mentioned, I believe, or maybe that was it.
Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yes, that book by Mark Manson. And then they should go to tracelabs.org and try to help find missing people. They should take some speaking lessons or practice public speaking and trying to get better and better at it. We should all work on ourselves and work on our emotional intelligence, and sometimes therapy is a thing that not only makes us way happier, it makes every person around us happier. And basically, we all need to join the We Hack Purple newsletter.wehackpurple.com. We should all probably buy this book, Alice and Bob Learn Application Security. Also, check mark, Tanya doing the marketing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's like 6 minutes to 7, so I'm supposed to wrap up. So I have one more question, and I'm like, so I have lots of questions, but I have like so many that I want to ask. So I'm going to ask, are there lots of opportunities to work in our field and specifically in that type of job?
In our field? Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. The last security company I was at, they pretty consistently had over 100 open recs at one time. So lots of opportunity for very different roles. So totally, we need more people. For the specific role that I'm talking about, I think it really depends on the organization and where they're at and what they're interested in. There are different variations on it, I think, depending on where you go and like ways that you can, like directions you can take it. Like if you want to do more of like a like a sales engineering route and kind of like be this like technical advocate for people, or if you want to go the developer advocate route as opposed to like more enterprise strategist. So there's definitely options available, and there are a ton of different roles that you can get started in for sure.
Do you think that all the people listening should definitely come work in InfoSec with us?
Yes. I definitely do.
Thank you.
If they're listening, they're clearly interested.
Right? You know, that's a really
Yeah.
good point. If they're listening, they probably are interested. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It was such a pleasure to have you. And it's now time for us to wave goodbye because we are at the minute mark where I'm supposed to hang up. So
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Allie.
Thank you. Bye.
And thank you for listening to the We Hack Purple podcast. This week we had Allie Mellen. She's awesome. You can follow her at HackerXBella on Twitter and lots of other places. And we learned what it was like to be, well, amazing, but also a security strategist and developer advocate, which is like, we kind of tied those two together. The We Hack Purple company is an academy where we teach you how to become an application security professional. It is a community which is going to reopen in 4 weeks, and we're going to welcome all of you into it who aren't in it yet. We are this podcast where we try to help people learn about how they can get into information security and what all the different jobs are like. We also have a silly swag store where you can buy bright pink security hoodies called shop.wehackpurple.com. But most of all, we are an organization dedicated to teaching everyone how to make more secure software. Next week, we have guest Stephanie Black, and she's going to teach us what it's like to be a cybersecurity account manager, because we need to cover all the jobs. And honestly, I don't know what that job is like. The following week, we have Troy Hunt on, and he's going to teach us what it's like to be Troy Hunt, because there's no other person on earth like Troy. Following that up, we're going to have Barbara, I'm sorry, Barbara, if I'm saying your last name wrong, Shatner, and she's a security architect. And I know we already covered this with Marie Galloway, and she's totally awesome, but I want yet another perspective on security architect because it's such an important role. After that, we're going to have Davin Jackson on, and he has his own awesome podcast, and I'm going to be on his podcast 2 hours before he's on my podcast, and we're going to like switch it up, and that's March 4th. And he's an AppSec pen tester, and he has his own podcast, he has his own newsletter. He's like pretty darn awesome, and you should probably follow everyone that's going to be on our podcast. So we have people booked all the way throughout the year, and all of this is in hopes to basically bring more and more people into our industry. I want to thank you for listening. I'm Tanya, Janca, your host. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And thank you for securing all the things.